Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? We're back for round two here around Silverstone, actually, Great Britain. Arguably one of the greatest tracks on the F1 calendar. No bias at all there. And as you can see, we've got Division 1 here tonight. 16 drivers, so should be a nice race today. I will run you guys through the championship after Bahrain last race. So we have the Williams man of Maui, P1. Very good race from him last week, actually. Great pace in qualifying and managed to get the win in the race. We have Guyton in that Red Bull, P2. Kean in the Ferrari, P3. Sabi in the Alfa Romeo, P4. MGK in the McLaren, P5. Mali, P6 in that Ferrari. Psycho, ALB in the AlphaTauri. We have Chris, Mr. Bombastic himself, in the Mercedes. Gaines Class, Jonah in the Alpine P9. Jonah, one of the contenders to win last weekend, but just missed out, making a small error, costly error actually, which made him drop to P9. Then we have Klein, P10, in the Haas. Don't believe he's racing tonight. No, he's not out there for the Haas team, but we do have his teammate Jimmy Django, P11, in that Haas as well. So both those guys next to each other in the championship. And we have Ryan, Burrell, Emil in the reserve. So he ranks up ahead, but he doesn't get any points. Then we have Marius Formula, Fleckers, Rowan, Naup, Amigo, Rutger, McLeod, and Provatax, all left up in that championship. So as you can see, we've got a few cars out on track already. Let's ride on board with, I think it's Jonah. Yes, Jonah will be the exiting Chapel Curve now, onto that hangar straight. I'm going to try to use the track corner names today. I know a lot of them off by heart, so let's see. As he's now going through Vale Curve into Club. And we'll ride on board with Jonah here for that first lap in the Alpine. Down the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight, as recently named, as we're going through into Turn 1, Abbey, and Farm Curve, Turn 2. Taking their brake point very well there into Village. Now the tricky loop section of the track. Opts to go down to third gear and then short shift back up to fourth. He's now down, heading his way down to Brooklands corner. Just after the 50-meter board, you need to brake there. 27.5, that first sector split, as he's now going through Luffield. A very tricky corner, especially if your tyres are too hot. That rear traction, it's very difficult to keep those rear tyres in check. As he's now going into that famous Copse corner, where we saw that collision last year between Hamilton and Verstappen. Takes it very neatly there through Copse, so not trying to extend too much. Now going through Maggots, Beckett. There we go. Decent line through there, and then on the exit there, Chapel picks up the DRS nicely. Also going to be a 1 and 3/4 to that second sector split. So not a bad middle sector actually. As we're now going down to Stowe, just after the 50-meter board, you sort of brake at the entry point of that exit curve there, onto the entry curve there. As we're now going back into Club. Decent, picks the braking point very decently there, and just that tricky traction, the rear tyres will be screaming at this point, as what's it going to be, a 27.2, so not a bad opening lap actually there from Jonah himself. Let's see if we have the McLaren and the Fleckers there, 27.7, so just a bit off. Let's see if we can ride on board with Mali here, as he's just about to round off his lap there in that Ferrari. Where's it going to put him? It crosses the line right now, and it's going to be a 27.3, so just a tenth off Jonah there, so looking pretty tight on these opening laps so far. As Chris gets disqualified for driving the wrong way on the track. I'm not sure what he was doing there in that Mercedes. He's not driving drunk like last week, so I don't know what's happened there. So he's going to be starting P16 here, sadly. As see Ryan in that Mercedes, a 103.8. So 4 tenths down on the front few in that second sector split. Can he gain some time back in this last sector? Has a decent entry and exit. Yeah, just holding the 5th gear, just struggling in the power there a bit. 27.9, so he's quite a way off from the rest of the drivers up there. We have Guyton in that Red Bull. P2 last race, showed some very good pace actually, and quite a lot of promise for the season. So let's see if he can carry that momentum as Marius Formula in that the Red Bull takes P1, provisional P1 right now, 27.1. So very good lap there, and his teammate just a smidge off him, but in P2. So both Red Bulls currently locking out that front two positions there on the grid. We've got Rowan in the Alpine. Takes a lot of inside curve there, so I'm not sure if that's the quickest way as he's going into the box there, so he's not happy with that lap, as you can see. So I don't think there's anyone else on track. Well, yeah, I think everyone's just on the in laps right now. So a bit of a lull period as these drivers get to the pits as soon as possible. Strap on again for round 2 in this qualifying session. And actually, no, sorry, I left out David. I believe he is on a lap. I'm not sure, actually. We'll see how committed he is here through Cox. I think he's on a lap. Pretty committed through there, actually. So let's see as he goes through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Picks up the throttle very early, so also going to be at the middle sector split. 1:35, so just a few tenths off the front queue there, but still a very good middle sector as he's now approaching Stowe. Full commitment through there. Actually runs a bit wide on the apex there, so the front end just walking away a bit as he's now going to club. You don't want to hit that red curb, you just want to go before and nail that pretty well actually. Now he's just picking up that throttle, tricky final corner. 27.5, so not the best of times, but as you can see, look how tight it is. Top 10 within half a second of each other. So Silverstone is one of those tracks where a lot of these guys will be running in a DRS train during the race, because the pace is, there's a lot of high-speed corners here, so it's really hard to lose the time compared to the competitors. So you see a lot of these guys running close, and qualifying I believe will be one of the tightest in the season. You see Jonah already out there on the fresh set of soft tyres for a second lap in Q1. Q1, so it's just normal qualifying to be honest. So yeah, out there on another fresh set of tyres. By the way, let me know if you guys can hear me properly in stream. Had a bit of an issue with my mic earlier in the week. And let me know how you guys are doing in chat. I don't know. Yeah, and let me know who you think will win the race or who. It'll be nice to see what you guys think. Jonah opening on his lap right now. Sorry guys, just reading up something quickly and I will get back to commentary in a second. I'm only limited to 4 on this poll, but right, let's see who will get poll. A little poll out there for you guys. Let's see how that goes as the season exiting. Oh, he gets a massive step there through Luffield. That's what I was saying earlier, it's very easy to lose the rear end there because you're really traction limited to that part of the track. So yeah, let's see. Let's see who else is on a lap. You can see Sabi in the Alfa Romeo showing very good pace last weekend as well. Very surprising because I've not really seen him race a lot before, so it was very nice to see that he could mix it very well with some of the established drivers on this grid. 6 milliseconds down on his previous time, so pretty much matching what he did in his previous lap. Gets a decent exit there through Luffield, going a bit too wide, but I think he was just carrying a lot of speed, so it's not too bad. Opting to stay in 7th gear as he enters Cox corner now. Bit of a lift, but pretty neat through there. Down going through Maggotts, Beckett, and then Chapel Curve. What's it going to be as we get to that second sector? 1034, so pretty decent middle sector. Not purple, but not too bad. He's now going through Club Corner. What's it going to be? A 27.0 is a very good last sector there for him, getting in pole provisional pole. As Mali in that Ferrari just pips him actually, so not giving Sadie enough time to enjoy his provisional pole position. Let's see if I think we have the Red Bull. Yes, we do have Guyton. Can he get a decent exit through there? Yes, he does. You don't want to lose too much speed on that apex because a lot of this section, this bit in the middle of the sector is nearly flat out, so you don't want to be losing a few tenths or half a tenth here and there, so especially with how tight this grid is. So as you go through Maggotts and Beckett's now, as Rowan 26.7, 3 tenths ahead of everyone else so far, so Rowan putting down a good benchmark there. Guyton set a purple middle sector, so he's also on a very good lap right now as he's just going through Stowe now. Not running too wide, so keeping the car in check there as he's now going into the Cub section. Just goes around that red curve very nicely there. Mario Storm 26.7, so these both Red Bulls are matching each other very well, 26.8, so now the gap has opened between the two Red Bulls and it's now a tenth of a second between them, so the Red Bull driver is very tight. Rowan sandwich in between there. Let's see if anyone else on that. We have Jimmy John, I think he's backed off there. MGK in the McLaren, let's see what he can do. Not rode on board with him for a while. So just going into that Club section now. Let's see, can he get it? Well, just goes a bit wide on that red curve. It's not too bad. If he can just carry that minimum speed through the Club section, it should be okay. Decent traction there. What's it going to be? A 27.1. So pulls him up to P6. It's still 3 tenths behind the top 3 there. Let's see LFR David here. He's going into the Luffield section of the track. Let's see, 8th gear, will he downshift? Yes, he does. Dab of brakes as well through there, so maybe he's not able to just downshift and lift off with it. He needs to have a bit of a brake as well. Can he get through this section nicely? Yeah, gets that nose turned in, goes a bit too much into the inside, but I don't think it'll harm him too much. And 1033, so that's matching what the top 3 were doing actually in that middle sector. So maybe he can also challenge for pole. Let's see. The grid is very tight right now. Oh, we got a bit of a moment there on the exit, but I think he was weird. Yeah, he touches that red curve, but he's now approaching the line. Let's see what he can do. 27.0, so that pops him up to P6 just ahead of MGK there, so he's still got 3 tenths to find if he wants to try and fight the pole position. Jonah now on a lap in the Alpine. I don't know if this is the same set that he had for his second run in his qualifying section. He's been validated to the Maggotts Beckett section, so if he did use those previous set of soft tyres, I suggest he just goes to the box now, puts on the final fresh set tyres and just goes for it. But if not, then he just needs to back off, maybe do a cool down lap of two, and then head back out for the final runs. As yes, he's decided to box, so hopefully he does have a fresh set of tyres that he can use. A lot of drivers actually on the out lap, so maybe some drivers are opting for 2 laps in qualifying. Let's see. It is possible to do 2 laps around this track, even though it's a lot of high speed and you can get a lot of degradation around here. The soft, I believe, can hold for 2 laps, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone does opt to do that. But it also just gives them enough buffer because the lap around here is not too long. It's only a 1:27 lap on average around here, so they can do 2 runs if they need to. But right on board with Mali actually, in that Ferrari. Doesn't that Ferrari just look amazing this year? I'm just going to say, I mean, I know they're bottling it in real life, but it does look like a very good car. I think that car's going to go down as one of the best looking cars to not win a championship, sadly. as Chris is justifying him getting disqualified as a tactical move. I believe he was discussing this a bit earlier on in the week. I didn't expect him to actually do it, so yeah, bit of a joker, let's say. But yeah, as you can see, Maddie now opening up his lap. Let's see what he can do in that Ferrari. Gets a decent exit to that final corner, heading down that Lewis Hamilton straight there, going into turn one. Nice commitment, 8th gear through there, as he's now going into the loop section of the track. 3rd gear, short shift back up to 4th, picking up the power nicely there, as he's now going through Aintree, down the Wellington straight, DRS open. Let's see what his time's going to be as he gets to that first sector split. Can he get a purple for sector 1? 27.4, so 35 milliseconds up on his time, but not a purple sector 1. Can he gain the time back in sector 2? He picks up the power nicely there through Luffield, and now that long run up into Copse Corner, through Woodcut, easy flat. 8th gear, Willie downshift, and a dabber brake into Copse. Let's see, dabber brake there into Copse Corner there, as McLeod has decided to retire on track. No, in the box, I'm not sure. Sorry, no, he did retired on track. Yes, he did. He did it through the loop section actually, so must have struggled to pick up power there. What's going to be a 1-3-1 through that middle sector? So pretty decent middle sector. You'll get a very nice toe actually from that Alpine. So can he get? He goes a tiny bit wide and he goes off and spins off into that Stowe corner there. So maybe carried a bit too much straight minimum speed into that apex. Probably not helped with that DRS slipstream, as I wanted to see who the Alpine was. Can he beat that Red Bull of Mario's Formula for pole position? Let's find out. Gets a nice club, goes very nicely there to that club section as he approaches that line. What's it going to be? A 26.691, so a very good lap there, as Mario's Formula is about to open up his lap in that Red Bull. Let's see what he can do. As he goes through turn 1, 8th gear, downshift to 7 actually, so maybe he's not got enough downforce to keep it in 8th gear. Into the loop section now, 4th gear. Ideally you want to keep 4th gear throughout this whole section, especially on the exit, because it's really hard to pick up that power. As he's now going through Aintree, nice exit there, picks up that DRS very nicely, going down this Wellington straight into Brooklands. 13 milliseconds up on his time, so he is gaining time there. Can he get a good... He does get a nice exit there. He did have to back off a tiny bit off that power there, as Maddie's just a downshift as he goes a bit wide and invalidates his lap time there. So Guyton, his teammate, just pips him there for P2. It's anyone else on good here now. Can he get a good exit? Short shifting to 6th, actually a bit weird. Maybe it was a double shift, I'm not sure. Up to 8th gear now in the AlphaTauri. How much commitment there through Copse? He doesn't run out wide. Rowan's decided to retire. I believe he's got pole position in the bag. I don't think there's anyone else that left that could challenge him, but I don't want to speak too soon, as he's now going down this hanger straight. A 1-3-1, so purple middle sector. This could be on for the top 4 here. Let's see what he can do as he's now going through Stowe. A decent entry point there, carrying a lot of speed there in 6th gear. He's now going into the club section. Gets the apex there nicely, touches that red curb, maybe uncircle the rear a bit there, but let's see what it's going to be as he approaches that line. Is it going to be 26.9, so 3/10 off top there, but not a bad lap as anyone else. I think Fleckers is the last person to finish their lap here, I believe, as he's approaching the line. 90, a 10th down on his previous best, so that's it. I believe that is it for qualifying here at Silverstone. I got my predictions or names a bit wrong in the poll there, but that's okay. I'm just trying something new, to be honest. So yeah, I'll run you through the grid once we get the timing sheets up. And wow, a pretty tight qualifying. A lot of these drivers are equally paced around here. So as you can see, we have Rowan in the Alpine, takes pole position here at Silverstone. We have Guyton and in the Red Bull, 29 milliseconds behind him, and Marius Formula, the other Red Bull, 65 milliseconds behind Rowan there. So Red Bull 2-3, then we have Jonah P4, Sabi P5, David the reserve P6, Psycho ALB P7, Mali a disappointment in qualifying, only P8 there, Jimmy P9, MGK P10, Maui, McLeod, Fleckas, Provitux. So, but just look at the gap, just the P12 separated by 6/10. So, and even that top three under a tenth of a second. So, let's see if these guys can keep it close in the race. I do expect a bit of a DRS train if there's no incidents during the race. So it'll be exciting to see how close these guys can race with each other. As it's actually raining. Wow, okay, so throw a bit of what I said out the window. It's raining, so I mean, it doesn't stop them from running close, but you'll get a bigger pace disparity between the drivers in the wet. So it'll be interesting to see who can switch, who can get a good rhythm in the wet. And also, I would be wondering if any drivers are running a bit of a wet setup in qualifying, or some drivers have just decided to stick with their dry setups because they believe they have the pace in the wet to not worry about any special setups. We've got 10 seconds roughly left down on that clock. I'm not sure if it's full wets or into, so we will see when the drivers, when the tower comes up. Once again, still no formation that because of the glitch that goes on with tire temperatures, even though I am the host. No one else is the host. And we've got 5 red lights here. And it's lights up and away we go. I'll put the tires on in a sec, guys. Let's see what happens. As we're going into turn 1, Rowan gets a decent exit there. The two Red Bulls fighting side by side. Gaitin just getting hit as Marius Formler is going down the inside of his teammate there. So the two Red Bulls fighting there. We've got Sabi just getting pushed a tiny bit wide. We've got a lot of these drivers going side by side here. Marius Formler gets ahead of his teammate there. So, and you can see Sabi fighting the Alpine there. They're both getting a red on that Red Bull. Can they overtake into Brooklyn? Sabi coming down the inside there of Jonah. Can he get it through there? As he's now going to have to go around the outside of Lovefield here. Not a bad place to be, but I think Jonah just has enough traction. Yes, he does, to stay ahead of the Alfa Romeo there. Maddie there. P7, not a lost position, I believe, at the start. As you can see, the Red Bull actually getting behind Jonah there. So I believe Jonah overtook him as we've got yellow flag there. I believe someone's reset the track. I think that's Ryan, sadly. So I'm not sure if he's going to get a penalty for that. I can't remember. Usually you're not meant to reset on track, guys. So I've got my eye on you. As we can see, let's see if there's any battles going on. I believe, yes, we do. We have Maui in the Williams, that previous race winner. Can he go down the inside of Stowe here? He's trying on Jimmy Django. Can he make it work? Yes, he does. He gets ahead of him by the exit, but he gets a bit of a moment on the exit there, and the Haas comes back at him. I'm not sure if there was any collision. I don't believe so. As they're now going side by side through Club. This is not where you want to go side by side, especially here where the traction is very tight. Because Jonah is now in P2, it's an Alpine 1-2 so far. So both Red Bulls dropping back. You can see Mali trying to go around the outside of LFR David. He's had to go off the track a bit, and they both collided, and Mali has to, he spun around on the... this is not what he wanted here today, Mali, sadly. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Alright, I need to take a bit of a chill here. I think I've got a bit of an internet issue here as well. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm not sure what's going on. It's been very annoying the last few days. I don't know what's going on with my internet. So hopefully I can get that back. All I can do is just narrate what's going on. So we have Rowan P1, Jonah P2, both Alpines 1 and 2. We've got both the Red Bulls chasing down Jonah right now. Can they get back up ahead of him? And yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with my internet, guys. Very annoying right now. Let's see if I can get it back up. I'm not sure what's going on. As we have another yellow flag on track. Not sure who that is. And actually, I know you guys can't see this, but Marius Formula is challenging Jonah into club section, trying to go around the outside, but not possible. Jonah covering that inside very well, but can Marius Formula get a good exit at the club? As I believe, no, he can't. I think someone got a penalty. No, they haven't, sadly. That's fine. I'm trying to get my internet so if you guys, you're only going to be able to hear audio for now. Anything I can do, bear with me, guys. I'm honestly not sure what's going on. I've just been having internet issues, especially on PlayStation the last few days. So hopefully it comes back. All I can do is just narrate it for you guys. And I definitely cannot leave the lobby because it's going to mess everything up. So I can't really restart my PlayStation. I hope it does come back. Rowan extending his lead up from his teammate from 2.4 to 3 seconds within 2 laps there. So Rowan getting a move on. Jonah still got both Red Bulls following him actually. So both Red Bulls have been able to clear Sabi, who was stuck in between. So it's back to an Alpine 1-2, Red Bull 3-4. So, but Jonah's got both Red Bulls right behind him, and they're both coming at a very quick pace. They've already cleared the rest of the pack. This top 4, Rowan more, he's cleared. Rowan keeps setting those fastest lap as well, as Marius Formula's got a bit out of shape there through that last corner. I don't think it's going to invite his teammate too much. The gap between them, 6 tenths there, and Jonah managed to gain a 1 second gap on the Red Bull. Alright guys, give me a second. I'm going to go try and see if I can fix my internet. I'm just going to go mute for 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I'm honestly not sure what I can do, guys, because the only way to fix it is restarting my router, but then I can't do that because these guys are in a race and I don't want to mess everything up. So I'll try my best to speak what's happening for the time being, and hopefully everything gets back up to normal. But we still have an Alpine 1-2, Red Bull 3-4. Sabi actually closing the gap a bit to the Red Bulls. So yeah, I think Sabi just finding his feet a bit now in the wet conditions. I'll run you through what the grid looks like so far. So as I said, the Alpine 1-2, Red Bull 3-4, Sabi in Alfa Romeo P5, Jimmy Django in the Haas P6, the Williams of Maui, our previous race winner, in P7, McLeod in the Alfa Romeo P8, Chris, Mr. Bombastic, P9 in the Mercedes, MGK and the McLaren P10, Provatax actually fighting MGK there for P10, and he's touched the rear end there of MGK, no damage, so that's okay. We have Psycho P12 in the Alfa Tauri, 13 is the Fleckas, Mali the Ferrari, having that incident there I believe with Sabi, if I remember correctly, down in 14th, and he's slowly gaining to the back of the train there. He's able to do that because he's in that fresh air, so we've got Ryan in the Mercedes a long way back in P15, and Lafar David, our reserve P16 in the Alfa Tauri. No action on track right now. I am going to see if I can fix my internet again, so I will be back in a second. still not able to sort out the internet issue, guys, so like I said, hopefully I can get it back. Let's see, there's no changes to the position so far. I'm going to see if there's any battles on track right now. I think the closest thing is McLeod, the other Alfa Romeo, behind Jimmy Django there in that half. I think Jimmy just struggling a tiny bit, losing a few tenths here and there per lap to Sabi, so the gap 2.2 seconds between P5 and P6. Sabi actually, as I believe my broadcast could be resumed. Hopefully that is the case, so we can get back to the action, and it has actually. So as Ryan's actually retired on track, is that going to pull out a safety car? Yes, it has a full safety car there. He's actually gone off at Copse Corner, so very high speed corner, I believe a big incident. Hopefully this safety car doesn't KO any other cars on track. Safety car will be having to wait for the leaders there. So we have a full-blown safety car here. This is going to help Mali a lot, and also David. They can finally catch up to the pack, but this means that the gap of 5.3 seconds that Rowan had on the rest of the field is now gone back down to 0, basically. So perfect timing, actually. Stream came back and we got the safety car out, so we can have a race part 2 here in URL Division 1. So it'll be interesting to see if any drivers decide to box, because I'm not sure how long the inters can go around this track. I don't know if it's like last game where the tyre wear on the wet is not too bad, but I believe it's a one-stop here for inters. So maybe some of these drivers will pit for fresh inters. They will have a 7-lap, well, more than a 7-lap advantage actually on the rest of the competitors there. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does decide to box. But yeah, shame for Ryan, 2 weeks in a row the race has not gone his way in the Mercedes, sadly. Hopefully he can bring some more form next week in Austria. Of course, next week in Austria, our first sprint race of the season as well, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there, as Rowan has opted to stay out, Joan has opted to stay out. The Red Bull, actually, of Marius Formula has decided to box. Both Red Bulls are boxing. We've got Sabi making a last-minute call into the box. Both Alfa Romeos, Williams, Chris of the Mercedes, pretty much all the drivers have decided to box. Mali's actually decided to stay out there. I'm not sure about David, so a lot of drivers into the box here actually. So all of these drivers opting to get fresh inters. Maybe this is the only chance to get a free cheap pit stop in this race. So the running order so far, we have both Alpine still P1 to Jimmy Django now promoted up to P3, MGK P4 and Mali P5. So top 5 promoted due to everyone else pitting. I also believe David may pit, but look at him, he's halfway back on the rest of the grid there. So he's going to make up a lot of ground in the safety car period. And yet pretty much all the drivers on this grid have boxed fresh inters. I'm not sure what the weather changes. I don't know if it's going to get dry. Maybe it is going to get dry later on in this race. So the top 5 deciding to just stay on these inters and then wait for that dry period. But it could also be getting worse equally. So I'm not sure what the weather is, sadly. David has also pitted, but he's 44 seconds behind the rest of the field, so he will get the opportunity to catch up. The safety car will be out for at least another lap, so that should give him enough time to catch up. The safety car will probably be doing 2-minute laps around here, so he's got 30 seconds worth of delta to play around with to catch up to the rest of the pack. So he should be able to make it actually. I feel like Rowan can't afford to stay out on these inters because he was the fastest guy on track in this opening part of the race. So if he can just keep that form and pace, he will be able to pull away from the rest of the pack. But I'm not sure how Jonah, Jimmy, MGK and Manny will be able to hold the rest of the field, especially when both Red Bulls and the Alfa Romeo Sabi are in the pack in this fresh into Seville. It's wet and it's very hard to overtake around here, especially with those wet conditions. There is no DRS, so you'll got to rely on pure pace delta and also straight line speed, how much wing you're running. But yeah, some drivers trying to keep their tyres up in temperature there. Let's see what the penalties are so far actually. So we just had David, the reserve in the AlphaTauri, 3-second time penalty there. So none of the full-time drivers have penalties so far, which is good to see. This track actually becoming less strict when it comes to penalties actually, so a bit more forgiving for the drivers here, but it does mean that they shouldn't be taking advantage of that. Race directors note has particularly called out Copse Corner because it's very, not inconsistent I'd say, it's very forgiving on the exit there. But it's very easy to take advantage of the game's mechanics there. But David's still 37 seconds behind the rest of the pack. I don't know. I believe the safety car will come in this lap. It's already been out for 2 laps. But it would be a shame to see if David cannot catch up to the rest of the pack here. There's no confirmation there from race control. The latest they would say is at the finish point of the straight into Stowe, but no confirmation there from race control, so we will be out for another lap. David actually catching up with a lot of pace now, so I believe he will get the chance to catch up to the rest of the pack. Yes, he does. So safety car staying out. You can usually tell by the flashing lights on the rear wing whether it's staying out or not, and yeah, staying out still. So that will give David the opportunity to catch up back to the pack. It'll be interesting to see if Mali can keep up and overtake maybe the drivers in front of him, or keep the Red Bulls and the guys on fresh tyres behind him. Yeah, I think we'll have a bit of PTSD if he sees Sabi approaching him, especially with the collision in the open parts of the race. But we're only in lap 10 right now, so we're going to see that. As Saiko has left the session, he should be able to rejoin that session there, but that's not what he wants. But he's still got a lot of the lap left and the safety car to rejoin the session, so hopefully he can get back there. Currently in P12, that AlphaTauri driver. The AlphaTauri there of David finally rejoining the pack, so safety car should be coming in this lap. Bernd Maylander doing a very nice job there, keeping it on track in the wet. So we'll sadly say bye to that safety car. Well, not sadly, but we'll say bye to that very nice safety car at the end of this lap. And it'll be crucial for these guys to keep their tyres in that temperature window, but also be very careful on traction into the club section, especially with how clumsy these cars are at low speed, and with the wet conditions it's very easy to lose our rear end. So expect some of these drivers to either be in higher gears or short shifting when they get onto that power. And once we get confirmation of the safety car going in, Rowan in the Alpine will start to back off and control the pace. And there we go, race control confirmation there. Safety car coming in this lap. Rowan now taking control of the pace of the field, weaving his tyres. He doesn't want to go too early because I'll open up the opportunities there for the drivers behind to catch up or either overtake him, but he also doesn't want to go too late. His tyres will start to cool down, so it'll be very crucial to see how he plays this. Rowan, no stranger to leading a pack, so very experienced there when it comes to safety car restart, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. He'll actually ride on board with his teammate, and that'll give us the indication of how good of an exit he can get through club section, as he has gone, I believe. Has he? Yes, he has. He has gone there. So his teammate there getting a decent exit. Let's see if anyone else is by. MGK actually getting a good run there on Jimmy Django into tunnel, but not able to make any indentation there. The Ferrari there, Mali just topping that. As you can see, actually, Sabi trying to fight the Red Bull there into the loop section there. Can he get anything? He's trying to go down the inside there. Can he make it work? Very hard here on the traction, especially if you're going to Aintree. Aintree in the wet is not an easy flat corner like to drive, and not able to make any impression there. As actually Mauri, I believe, has jumped the Red Bull of Guyton, so the Red Bull's not getting the fastest of restarts here. Got the Mercedes there, as actually the Mercedes of Chris are getting not dive on, but McLeod just sending it down the inside there of that Mercedes. So very good confidence there from the Alfa Romeo driver. Can he now make an impression on the leader there? I mean, one of the lead drivers there in that Red Bull of Guyton. Chris not able to get a run on him there through Cop's corner. So, but McLeod getting a very nice run on that Red Bull actually on the exit of Cop. So can he keep close with that Red Bull driver? Let's see. As Mali is also getting closer to that McLaren. The McLaren of MGK just falling slightly back from Jimmy Django there, and a bit of a slipstream train as actually, McLeod going down the inside there of the Red Bull into Stowe corner. Can he make it work? I believe he has. Guyton has no chance of keeping that position there, and Guyton has now dropped down to P10. So that's not what the Red Bull driver wants. He was showing very good pace in the opening part of this race, so I'm not sure what's happened to him. Maybe he's just trying to get back into the flow and the rhythm again. Let's see if there's any other battles up ahead. Mali still behind MGK. MGK actually gaining back up to Jimmy Django. Rowan not able to get that massive gap within 2 laps that he did in the previous spin of the race. We have a yellow flag in sector 1. I'm not sure who that's for. I believe, that is for the Fleckers actually. So MGK's teammate, I believe he made a mistake into that loop section, the entry point of the loop section. Maybe dropped the rear end or had a collision with someone. I'm not too sure. But Jonah, this is crucial. Can Jonah stick with his teammate? He's not had to worry about the Red Bull trying to battle him. So he's not had to drop time from his teammate, but his teammate is slowly creeping away. But Jonah has a very good straight line speed, as you can see, gaining at least 10th and a half into this section here. So there's actually Mario's Formula right on the back of the Ferrari there. So this is what I mean. Can Mali keep these guys on the fresh tyres behind? But the Red Bull, especially in the hands of Mario's Formula, has been very devastating so far in terms of pace. He's got right at the rear end of Mali there, but Mali gets a very nice exit. And also, I believe he's also deploying Basabi actually trying to attack that Red Bull. So just a bit of a pendulum effect maybe. They're very close, but when in reality, once you get on that straight, it starts to open up that gap again, that perceivable gap actually. As Maui in the Williams, very decent driver in the wet actually, but he's actually got McLaren on the charge in the Alfa Romeo. Now that he's got the fresh air vintage, I believe he wasn't able to get with the front runners in the previous stint, so I believe he's just trying to make up for that now. He's challenging that Williams driver there, Maui, my previous teammate of course, and he's trying to go down the inside in the loop. Can you make it work? No, you can't. It's very hard, especially on the inside, to pick up the traction. When you're on the outside, you just have a bit more momentum going with you, and you can try and out-traction the driver up front. I don't see if there's any other battles. I know Provatax and the other Williams very close to the Mercedes of Chris there, but Chris also able to defend, has enough pace. Let's see Mario's Formula. Can he make get a run through this middle sector? A very high speed middle sector. So he has a very good cops actually. I wonder if he's running more downforce and that's just affecting him down that hanger straight, especially with no DRS here. Yeah, the Red Bull driver sees it. He's very close there to that massive effective exit. It's just an exit here. Mali able to put down the power much nicer, and he's still pulling away while Mari's Formula is deploying ERS. So I believe that Red Bull is just running higher downforce here around Silverstone to compensate for the wet conditions. So Mali just able to defend very nicely. He's still got a very healthy amount of deployment left in his pack. As actually Marius Former has lost a position there to Sadi. As Sadi's a tiny slapper there through club. But yeah, the Red Bull losing a position there. So both Red Bulls not able to keep up, or both Red Bulls actually getting overtaken by the Alfa Romeo drivers here. So the tail in the first stint was the Red Bulls against Alpine, but now it's just the Red Bulls against Alfa Romeos. And Marius Formula dropping slowly as McLeod gets ahead of Maui, but they're both fighting. But this is what I mean. McLeod now has the momentum round the outside. Can he keep it as he's going through Aintree there? It's very hard on the outside and he's managed to make it work in the wet conditions there. So a very good run through there, but now as you can see Maui trying to go around the outside through Brooklands, not able to make it work. Can he go around the outside now of Luffield? Can he make it work? Maui trying to fight it. Can he hang it around the outside? No, he can't. McLeod has an answer to him, and Maui now has to concede that position, but he needs to make sure he doesn't get overtaken by the Red Bull of Guyton here. Guyton just staying back, trying to make sure he doesn't get caught up with these two fighting, but that has also just allowed Slabby and Marius Formula to pull away just a tiny bit from the rest of these guys. Not too much, the gap is still under a second, but can now, for the second Alfa Romeo of McLeod, try and overtake the other Red Bull of Marius Formula. As actually, Guyton has a very good run here on Maui. Will he try and go for an overtake into Stowe? I think he's a bit too far back. Maybe both Red Bulls running a bit too much downforce for the wet conditions here, and they just don't have the legs on the straight to be able to overtake and defend McLeod. As you can see right now on the back of this pack here, gets a bit of a shake through club, but not too bad, as Sabi sets the fastest lap of the race. So I believe Sabi now is as you can see, Sabi is now the fastest guy on track, and both Alfa Romeos are doing very well here, putting a very good shift on, as can McLeod now set Marius Formula up for an overtake down the Wellington straight, as they're now going through the loop into Aintree corner. Can the Alfa Romeo get a good exit? He's actually got a very good exit here. He's deploying the pack now down the straight, but I believe the Red Bull is also deploying the pack. Not a long enough straight to maybe make an attempt into Brooklyn. Locks up a tiny bit, but can he get a good exit through Luffield? Will he try and challenge through Kopp's corner? It'll be very hard, especially in the wet conditions. And he's right on the back as Mali's left the session. I believe he's having a bit of an internet issue here, maybe. I'm not too sure what's happened. Maybe his PlayStation's crashed. I'm not sure. As this is not good for his race. It's just going downhill there. As you can see, that ghost car, the Ferrari, the lone Ferrari here. So almost like in real life, the race not going to plan for the Ferrari driver here. But McLeod there in the Alfa Romeo, tucked up right behind. I believe this ghost car of Mali is just slightly messing up the rest of the pack here. I believe Sabi just had a bit of a wash of dirty air through the middle section. That's just allowed Marius Formula to catch back up to the Alfa Romeo there of Sabi. So Marius Formula in an Alfa Romeo sandwich. Both Alfa Romeos looking very racy here as we finish up here on lap 15 as we approach lap 16 of this race. Only 10 laps left of this race. Rowan's, we've not really kept up with the top 3 here, well, top 4 actually, but Rowan has checked out a bit, 1.6 seconds ahead of his teammate Jimmy Django P3, 1.2 behind the other Alpine driver. MGK 4/10 behind the Haas, and look, Sabi is now under 1 second of the 4th place driver here, and Sabi making a big charge. Currently, I believe still the fastest lap holder, so showing his pace in the wet conditions on those fresher inters. I don't know if the top 4 will be able to stay out on these inters, especially with how high speed these corners are. I think the deg is very high in the wet conditions, as McLeod just dropped a tiny bit off. Maybe he's just trying to back off a tiny bit, get his composure, to recharge that battery and go for the move again on the Red Bull. But it's nice to see this little fight going on in the midfield. But also, what I was saying earlier, look how tight this top pack is up to P13. You can all see them at the same part of the track. This is what Silverstone brings. It brings a close race. These guys can follow each other, especially with these new cars. They can just stick with each other and keep on fighting and fighting. I know it's hard to overtake, but it just keeps everyone nice and close to each other. Rowan there in the Alpine, 1.8 seconds ahead of Jonah. Jimmy Django 1.4, as David and Chris are fighting into club. David on the inside in the AlphaTauri. Can he make it work? Chris being very nice there, leaving enough space there. And now Chris, can he just keep it into turn 1? Yes, he can. David now, will he get a run into that loop section? turn 3. Can he make it work? He's trying to go down the inside there of the Mercedes driver. Chris trying to get the switch back into the loop. Can he make it work? He taps the rear end there of David. So David covering off that inside very nicely. And Chris, can he get a run down this down the Wellington straight? I'm losing a bit of my words there. No, we can't. So LFR David in the AlphaTauri able to get ahead, but look at this battle is now dropped in 2.3 seconds behind the top 9. So and also, sorry, Guyton might be falling back a bit, and that's just allowing Guyton to catch up to him. McLeod now 4 tenths behind the other Red Bull there, still in that, the Red Bull still in the Alfa Romeo sandwich. But look at Sabi now, 6 tenths behind P4, the P4 driver there. So Sabi, can he get into that top 3 maybe? And there's only a few laps left, but can he try and get a win? I'm not sure, as McLeod takes a huge amount of curb on the inside there. I don't know if he got picked up a warning there. But I think that's the fastest way to go through that corner as well. So trying to make sure that he keeps the warnings out. Luckily, so far, no one has a penalty, just David there in the AlphaTauri. So a lot of the drivers behaving themselves so far in this race. Rowan now 2.4 seconds ahead, setting the fastest lap of the race. Is this where Rowan will now try and use that pace? Maybe the first bit of this race, sorry, McLeod now beats that fastest lap. But maybe Rowan was just saving his tyres, getting enough of a tyre delta so that these guys on the fresh inters, even if they challenge him, Rowan still has enough tyres left towards the end of this race to keep there. As actually McLeod going down the inside there of the Red Bull. Both Alfa Romeos trying to go down the inside in the loop section. Can they keep it into Aintree? Both Alfa Romeos making moves into Aintree on the inside. So very good driving there from both Alfa Romeos, both making positions now. Sabi up to P4 ahead of MGK, and now McLeod ahead of the Red Bull of Marius Formula. Some very good driving there from the Alfa Romeo. Both of these drivers showing a lot of pace here in the wet conditions, which is nice to see. But now can McLeod get ahead of MGK? MGK is going to be the first sacrificial lamb, let's say, for the drivers that stayed out on track on those older inters. So he's going to be the first one to get sacrificed here in the top 4. Drop down to P5 now. That's actually MGK trying to go down the inside there, and that's just allowed the other Alfa Romeo to get a run on them. So MGK still not giving up on this fight. Will he try and go down the inside, go around the outside actually off Stowe Corner? We're right on board here. Again, nice camera shot. McLaren just not able to keep around the outside there, and Sabi slowly closing that door on the exit there. So MGK, it's nice to see him still trying to proper fight. He's still got a good pace actually. It's just the newer inters just have a bit more of a time delta, and the wear he has got more wear delta compared to the fresher drivers on the fresh side. As a Fleck is another driver to get a 3-second time penalty. But also there you saw David, fastest lap of the race, as McLeod trying to go down the inside there, that's also forced him to go wide. Can he keep it covered there from the Red Bull? The Red Bulls actually dropped back from these guys, so no time lost there really, position lost there. But now McLeod, can he go down, can he try and make a time into Brooklyn corner? Very touch and go there into the loop section. So at least they didn't lose any positions, but if McLeod did gain a position, if he were to gain a position there in a hypothetical world, I believe he would have had to give that position back, because he did also tap the McLaren there. They both went wide. But this has also allowed MGK to, Sabi to pull away a tiny bit there from MGK. But MGK, because you have that 2/10 delta of pressure, as you can see, he's now caught back up to the Alfa Romeo. So no harm done there with them two fighting. This is now going to Magnus Beckett section. Rowan now 3.4 seconds ahead of Jonah. If the Alpines can just stick 1-2, that'll be okay. But Jimmy Django is actually now pulled up to the back of Jonah there. So can he spoil Jonah's and Alpine party for a 1-2 here? We'll find out as the race progresses. Actually, as we're now approaching the end of lap 19 there. So we'll have 7 laps left at the end of this. There we get see that fight there for P2. We have Jonah, Jimmy Django, Sabi, MGK, and McLeod. Even the Red Bull actually. There's going to be a long shot there, but even him, maybe he can also fight for this P2. Just depends on how these these inters will wear off. They are a softer, wet compound, so they will fall off the cliff, as with like soft tires would do in dry conditions. But sadly, they're right on the back of the Haas. But that Haas also trying to challenge them for P2. Can McLeod get ahead of MGK? No, he can't. MGK doing a very good job there on those older inters. And Rowan doing exactly what he needs to do. 4 seconds of gap now. It's going to be very hard, even if these fresh into runners try and catch up to him. It'll be very hard. But Rowan needs to make sure he doesn't get into the higher percentages on his tyres, otherwise he will risk getting a puncture on the final few laps of this race. McLeod right on the back of the McLaren here. Will he get a run? ERS being deployed now. He's got a very good run, but the McLaren is also deploying. McLeod does have an ERS delta compared to MGK. MGK just has enough legs on down this hanger straight into Stoke. McLeod getting a very good exit there. This is what the special needs to do. Will he try and go down the inside into Club? Yes, he does. Can he keep it there? Yes, he does. MGK has to cut the corner a bit. I think there was just enough room. It was right on the limit there for McLeod to get the overtake on, and MGK now down to P6. The other Red Bull there, Marius Formula now. Will he try and fight the McLaren? But the Alfa Romeo is now 4th and 5th. And actually, sadly, can he try and make it overtake into loop and entry? No, he can't. But he's got a lot of tyre pace compared to the P2 and P3 there. Jonah actually went wide on the exit of loop there, but he didn't lose much time. But Rowan 4.7 seconds now ahead of the other drivers, as Sadie makes a huge mistake into Luffield there, just puts a bit too much power, that's forced him a bit wide. He's not lost too much time, around 3 tenths there, as Fleckers gets another 3 seconds time penalty for track limits. That's not what you want, but he's also very far back from the rest of the pack, so it's not going to affect his race too much. But now that both Alfa Romeos now together in formation, let's say, can they now get up to P2 and P3? It's going to be very hard in the last 5 laps. Sadly, he's fallen the back a tiny bit. He's actually lost another 10th in the middle sector, but can he now gain it back down the straight? He's got a bit of battery left. He's got a bit more deployment left in his pack, and he's just going to try and make sure he doesn't use too much of it and let these front two battle a bit. Jimmy Django only on 8% battery. Jordan is still on 67%. So that pack, he's got such a lot more energy left in his pack. Does the Alpine driver of Jonah, but Jimmy Django's had to use a lot to keep up with this pace, I feel. So he's not got much to defend with against the Alfa Romeos. The very quick Alfa Romeos, I must add. So let's see if they can, as David says, another fastest lap of the race in the Alpha Tauri. He's got a 1.4 second gap to catch up to Maui. So using those fresh inters now to his advantage, as both Alfa Romeos not squabbling, but McLeod now trying to get his teammate to get a shift on. McLeod, I believe, was the quicker driver out of these two. As you can see, the other Alfa Romeo now pushing his teammate through, exaggerating that, but yeah, trying to push his teammate through there, as Jimmy Django goes a tiny bit wide into Brooklyn's there, and that's just allowed the other both Alfa Romeos to now get right onto the rear end. Can he get a good exit through here? Yes, he does, deploying a bit of his pack just to keep ahead of his teammate, and not too bad so far as he goes through Cox Corner now. Jimmy Django now 6 tenths behind Jonah. Jonah 4.6 seconds behind Rowan. Rowan, the leader from the start of the race, has not conceded the position in this race so far. So a very good job there from him. As can Sabi now get the run on Jimmy Django. He does have an ERS delta. Jimmy Django is still only on 5%. Sabi owns 30%. So 25% there. 25% advantage there in the pack. But it's looking very hard for these guys to make an impression. Sabi very close to the Haas driver there, just pushing him through that corner, trying to get him to get a move on here, and that's what those fresher inters will do. But also equally, his teammate right behind him, tucking in, as Chris sets the fastest lap of the race so far, 39 flat. On this, I believe he's not box actually, so he's just showing his pace very late into the race, a bit too late actually, for him to make an impression anyway. As actually Sabi goes round down the inside into the loop, and they make a bit of contact, and that allows the other Alfa Romeo there on the exit into entry to both Alfa Romeos overtaking the Haas there. I think it was very on the limit, but now look, McLeod trying to overtake his teammate there for P3. I believe now it's at the last 3 laps of the race. These two drivers will now just fight for themselves. They worked pretty well together actually, trying to overtake the rest of the pack. But now it's the last 3 laps. It's the closing stage of the race. Will they fight each other hard? Let's find out. But I feel sorry for Jimmy there. He just got he got either pushed a bit too wide, or there's just not enough track left there. So we'll see what happens if there's any incidents there. But it just looked right on the limit. I don't want to comment too much because I didn't see too much of that incident, sadly. But yeah, so we have so at the start of the race actually it was both Alpines and both Red Bulls, but now it's both Alpines and both Alfa Romeos. The Red Bulls just not having a good second stint on this race after that safety car. They've dropped down to P7 and P15, so a very bad day so far for the Red Bulls here. But now look, to both Alfa Romeos now fighting, but can they catch up to Jonah? They've already caught up to Jonah. Can they make Jonah, force Jonah into an error, or will they be able to overtake on track? Sabi, will he try and go for that overtake into the loop again, on the down the inside in that loop section? Will he try and do this again? Let's find out as we head on to lap 24 here. Rowan extending his lead up to 5.4 seconds, and actually Sabi trying to go around the outside of the loop. Can he make it work? Jonah just pushes him out wide, but we've seen that in real life and it is allowed, but that has made Sabi get a 3-second time penalty, so maybe he can get that removed. But he's also managed to get the position there, and actually McLeod trying to go down the inside at Aintree, and not possible. But Jonah now, will he try and go down the inside of Brooklyn? No, he can't. He's not got enough tyre grip there. But equally, Sabi goes a bit wide, so Jonah, can he get a decent exit through Lockfield here as they head up to Cops Corner? No, he can't. Just to see him fighting the rear end there on the exit, and that just pushes him a bit away from Sabi there. 4/10 the gap as they head into Cops Corner. As you can see, the other Alfa Romeo McLeod now right on the rear wing of the Alpine there. So currently it's an Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Alfa Romeo top 4. Now, can McLeod get a good exit there after Chapel Curve as they head up to Stowe Corner now down the Hanger Straight? Can he? Oh my god, the tyre grip there that he had, he just dummied Jonah. Jonah went on the inside, then had to cut to the outside, and then McLeod was just able to overtake him. So very good driving there from the Alfa Romeo driver, and that's just meant that Jonah has now dropped down to P4 in the race. Very good job in the opening section, as actually Jimmy Django, has crashed on the exit of Club. A very hard traction zone, and we didn't see any incidents here earlier, but as that tyre wear kicked in, he's made a mistake there on the last corner. But Jonah now nearly a second behind both Alfa Romeos. Now both Alfa Romeos, will they fight it out for that P2 position? It's going to be very hard for them to catch up to Rowan unless Rowan gets a puncture. But Rowan is 5.6 seconds ahead of P2. So it's down to the Alfa Romeo drivers. What will they do? Will they be able to fight each other? I believe McLeod was slightly faster than Sabi before they started to make the overtakes for P2 and P3 there. But Sabi showed a lot of pace, but obviously Sabi has that 3-second time penalty, which I do expect for him to dispute in the incident section, because he did get pushed wide. Well, not pushed wide, but he ran out of room on the track. But we've seen it in real life and it's not penalised, so we'll see what happens in the steward's report. But I believe he will get that 3-second time penalty removed there. As we're heading down to the Hanger Straight for the second to last time in this race, Rowan's gap 5.2 seconds ahead, so he's lost 2/10, but it's still not enough, and Rowan showing extremely good pace here on those old intermediate tyres. So I believe the Inters actually could have gone the whole race, so very good driving there, being able to conserve his tyres, as Jonas decided to box for, I'm not sure why he's decided to box actually, because he was in a very healthy P4 there. Maybe he's decided to call it a day, I'm not sure, unless he's got damage. But I would have just stayed out, especially in this game where the front wing does not have much of an impact. to your car performance because of the ground effect. But we are on the last lap now. Rowan's gap 4.9 seconds. This is actually where those fresh inters will gain time. In the slower speed corners, you have so much more traction and so much more front end grip on those fresher inters. And I don't know why Jonah boxed. I'm very confused. Sad to see because he was running in a very good P2 for a while and he would have finished P4 unless he had a collision or so on. I'm not sure, sadly. But now this is the final lap. Can McLeod has 12% left in his pack. His teammate Sabi has also got 12%. So both of them have equal ERS amount as they now go through the Maggotts, Beckett and Chapel section. Maggotts, Beckett and Chapel section as they approach the hanging straight into Stowe. This is the final opportunity there for the Alfa Romeo to overtake his teammate. Will it be possible? I just don't think it can. He's 4-5 tenths behind and there's not enough straight line speed for them to swap positions or fight. So Sabi must have, I believe he's now secured the P2 there. Runs a bit wide actually in the apex of Stowe, but that's not going to affect him too much. Runs a tiny bit wide across that white line, but he's got enough jokers left. But as you can see, Rowan crosses the line. A very good dominant race there from the Alpine driver. P1, Sabi, P2 in the Alfa Romeo gets a bit of a shake on the XF Club. MGK, very good drive there from the McLaren driver. VFR Maui, P5 recovering very well there. As I don't think there was an incident. I think this car just sliding across the track there. We have the Fleckers in the McLaren P11. Not a day for him. Not a day for him to forget. Not a good showing today. He's picked up, I think, 6 seconds of penalties. Jonah's also picked up a penalty. I think this is the end of his race. But Mali there, still a ghost car, sadly. I don't think he managed to get back into the lobby, which is a shame. So Jonah, P12, scheduled to finish P4 in this race, does a nice little spin for the show. And the final driver, Guyton, the Red Bull. So, what a race actually. The wet conditions giving us a very nice race here. And MGK is the game's driver of the day in the McLaren. I would also give it to MGK actually, because he's done a very good job there, especially trying to hold off those guys. But here we go, Rowan, the Alpine driver, approaching the podium now, flanked by Alfa Romeo drivers there. But yeah, a good job there from the Alpine driver, doing the whole race on that set of inters. As we run to the final grid. As Maddie saying that his game had crashed, and but yeah, no, so let's run to the grid now. I mean, the final finish positions here at Great Britain around Silverstone. We have Rowan in the Alpine, very good performance at P1. Both Alfa Romeos P2 and P3, but I believe they will be swapped around if Sabi decides to dispute his penalty. MGK P4, Maui in the Williams P5, Babastic Chris P6 in the Mercedes, Marius Formula, the Red Bull P7, Provasax P8, Psycho P9, David the Reserve P10, Fleckas P11, Mali P12, Gainscast P13, Guyton P14, and we have Jimmy Django and Ryan P15 and P16. And sadly, a race for Red Bull to forget. They were running P3 and P4 in contention for the race win, or very good podium position, but after the safety car just not worked out for them. But it did work out for both Alfa Romeo drivers, and they capitalized with a double podium. So very good job there from the Alfa Romeo drivers. And it'll be interesting to see if they can carry this momentum into the sprint race weekend next week around Austria, URL's first sprint race of the season. It'll be interesting to see how these drivers perform in the sprint sessions, and we will see you then. Goodbye.